happen? How could this do this? For what? For the sake of what? What beliefs? What prompted them to this? This reaction. But then I went through material, whatever is in there. Quickly. My first call to FBI. They could not have done this. Where are evidence? All you're showing, that's just the footage. Two guys are walking. No, I'm suspicious that this was staged. The picture was staged.
By who?
Whoever needs this.
But why would
whoever is looking for those who need to be blamed for these attacks. They are normal young men, athletic. Tamerlan is almost 2 meters tall, very athletic, smart boy, seemingly did not find himself yet in America, because it's not easy. And my younger brother Ruslan, he had a very high expectations of him, because he knew he was smart. He knows he could use his potential, but and then when he found out that he dropped out of university, Ruslan was desperate, because he always demands more of his children.
That's the aunt of the suspects here, describing the pair and alleging they were set up. Let's bring on into the program now via the phone Bill Gavin. He's former FBI Assistant Director of New York and supervisor of the Bureau's investigation into the '93 World Trade Center bombings. Bill, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Can you explain to us, I mean, we've all been riveted by the scenes playing out in Boston, but can you explain to us how the investigation's now coordinated? When they say they set a perimeter, can you explain what that really means, what they're trying to do? I think we know they're searching house by house, but explain a little bit behind the scenes what they're trying to figure out and where they're trying to pin this guy down in.
Well, the bottom line is, as you well know, there was a terrible firefight last night with his brother killed, and it's hard for me to believe that he didn't have a few holes in him as well after that, after 80 some odd rounds of ammunition going in that direction. With that said, once he gets away, they create a perimeter around an entire neighborhood, and this is not done usually. This is a very exceptional move to do that. But they start pinching in that perimeter. They go to all the houses, they move it in closer, they move in closer until all elements meet, and they've searched every single house. One never knows where he is or whether or not there's always the potential that he was wounded so seriously that he went into holes someplace and may not have survived. One never knows. It's going to take a while before they find this young man.
But Bill, explain. So, okay, they basically put a stay-in-place order for the entire city of Boston and the surrounding area. They don't find him, but they lift that order. And I understand from a practical level why, but what does it tell you as an investigator that they lifted the order, and obviously a person they considered extremely armed and dangerous here, they're basically not putting the general population out back in play?
Well, the bottom line is, you can only ask people to remain in residence and to hold up just so long. I mean, the cooperation of the citizens of Watertown and other communities in the general Boston area has been outstanding. They've done what they've been asked to do, but you can't ask them to stay in forever. The police now feel, having done a great percentage of the searches, now feel pretty confident that the people are safe to come back out again. The other thing is they've really beefed up their patrols, not only with the Watertown PD, but with the state police and other local jurisdictions going in to help them with their discharge their duties as police officers in the neighborhood. So it's just one of those things where, would it be ideal to keep everybody off the street so the police are the only ones on the street? Of course it would, but it's not practical. It doesn't make any sense. And they have to let go of that principle to let people back on the street.
When we heard about the gunfight you described, we also heard about grenades that were thrown by these guys, pipe bombs. Apparently they found another pressure cooker in the apartment when they did a search here, and apparently armed to the teeth. What does that tell you in terms of both the level of preparation of these guys and also, I mean, the scope of some of the armory that they had at their disposal?
It's very tough to figure. number one, the bomb that they made in terms of bomb making was crude but extremely effective. You know, probably low yield explosive, but put it under the pressure of the pressure cooker and put the nails and the ball bearings and the pellets in there, and you've got a formidable bomb. And you don't just, it isn't one of those things that we talk about the bomb making cookbooks and everything and stuff you can get online. You got to be darn careful when you do things like that. It isn't like taking the old Betty Crocker cookbook and making a cake. It's not quite that simple. You have to know exactly what you're doing. So did they have some training someplace else? That's difficult to say. When we say that they were throwing grenades, I think it's grenades in a generic term. I don't think it means that they were throwing military hand grenades out the window. Any explosive that they can throw by hand, light a fuse and throw by hand, such as a pipe bomb, can be called a grenade. So I think probably we have to expand the definition a little bit in order to get a good picture of what they were throwing out. But where did they get all that stuff? Where did they get that in the United States? How did they get a hold of all of that? That all has to be unwrapped to see what exactly happened.
Bill, I'm curious what you make out of the fact that they hadn't left the Boston area or hadn't apparently tried to get out of Boston, that they stayed put. I know for the layman it caught a lot of us off guard that somebody who's that wanted for something that horrible wouldn't try to flee.
I believe that they figured they would never be caught. I also think that when law enforcement released those photos yesterday, it shocked the daylights out of them. Because I think they just thought they walked in a crowd, even though they know there's cameras around, that you know, they wouldn't stand out. There would never be a picture that good. It did. They stood out. They got caught.
And to your point, Bill, apparently the younger brother who's at large right now, to your point, Bill, the younger brother at large actually went back to his college campus, was talking with his friends as recently as 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, right before those photos went out. I think it gives credence. The last thing I have, Bill, is everybody agrees if they manage to get this guy alive, they're going to learn a lot more than if he dies in a firefight. On a practical level, when you're dealing with law enforcement that's already have one of their guys in critical condition right now, and that security guy at MIT who's dead, is it practical to say try and get this guy in alive, or is the likelihood right now that he won't make it back alive?
No, I think everybody wants him back alive, law enforcement included. It's a tragedy to lose a fellow law enforcement officer, but it's also the retribution of a firefight where, you know, if he dies, that could happen. But to bring him before the bench and have him tried, convicted, and put in jail and let him sit there the rest of his life, there's some justice and at least a feeling of a cathartic feeling over something done like that. I don't think there's a law enforcement officer that would just look for an excuse to shoot and kill this man. We need to know more about what happened. In taking him alive, we might be able to find out, did he have help? Were they trained? Yeah, are there other individuals involved who knew what they were doing? All of these things can be answered by a person who's alive. And by the same token, it protects the next police officer if they find out all these things, maybe from being shot and killed or have a bomb thrown at them. So it's in everybody's best interest to have them captured alive.
Bill Gavin, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Rich.
All right, everybody, coverage continues right after this quick break.